Welcome to another episode of Elevate Your Grind. This is a very special episode because we are doing it live today. Doing it live with somebody whose time I'm taking up a lot of today because you're going to be on our panel later today at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. David Tran, he is an icon in this industry. You will see him at almost every cannabis event. You can recognize him by, and I'm upset he's not wearing it right now, his awesome cannabis necklace that he typically has. He's the founder of Dope Magazine, founder of Farechild events, and serial entrepreneur with many more businesses, both inside and outside of cannabis. We were talking about a restaurant that he owns previous to jumping on here. So please welcome my awesome guest, David Tran.
How you doing, Todd?
Doing
Hello,
great.
everybody.
If we had theme music, this is where we would cue it, but we're not that kind of an operation yet. So David, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being a part of the panel today. You know, you are definitely an OG in this industry, right? You started, so from what I know, you started with Dope Magazine back in 2009. Were you involved in the industry until you got to that point beforehand? Or was it just, you know, I'm really big fan of cannabis. I'm passionate about the industry. We see legalization coming down the pike. This is something that we need to do to get the information out there. Tell us the story about how you got involved in the cannabis industry and then, you know, founding Dope. And we can get back into your cannabis relationship prior to that, but just kind of want to start with the business end.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I started, in the bar business, and when some friends of mine approached me with the idea of opening a small medical dispensary, I got really excited because I've been, in the cannabis culture, since '93. So really followed it through. Right away, my eyes were open. The medical side was very interesting to be able to walk into a store and see, glass full of cannabis, and what was just like one of the most amazing things in the world. And so jumping into the business was really exciting, but I started realizing immediately that there were real medical patients. I thought that because of my bars, I would have my friends come in and they would go get their medical cards, and that's what the business was going to be surrounded by. But ultimately at the end, real patients were walking in, and people were, coming in with, their prescription bottles and saying, wow, this right here that you have on your shelf is helping me avoid taking all of these. And so it really started changing my perception of cannabis. And when I looked on my coffee table to kind of look at different places I could market my store, I really didn't see anything.
Yeah.
And there really wasn't a lot. People had some, really small books and they were overcharging people. And there really wasn't education, really was more of an advertising book. So immediately we said we needed to really solve that problem and, tap the shoulders of my friends who actually were running a magazine in the nightclub restaurant world. James Zahogny, who is actually my partner now still at Farechild. But immediately they understood how to all of those, all the processes of the magazine. So really the runway was a lot easier to putting together a magazine. And, in 2011, we rolled out Dope Magazine in 30 days, from the time that we said we're going to do it to the time that we put a magazine out. It was 30 days because Hemp Fest was right around the corner. We had this big opportunity where Hemp Fest was probably the biggest free speech event in the world. 500,000-600,000 people. We said we need to hurry up, get it up and going. And it started with the name, and that just came so quickly. We left the office, said we were going to do it, and then someone just said dope, and we're like, okay. And then someone said defending our patients everywhere, and it just started coming fast.
See, that is an awesome acronym because Dope Magazine, there's so many different ways that you can interpret it, like dope things, like it's cool, or dope, another slang for cannabis. But the fact that it actually has that acronym of defending our patients everywhere, that's such a cool name for that to come into place right there.
Yeah, initially, we got some pushback, because, we were talking about an industry of medical and really grassroots movement. So a lot of, to me, like I call it the old tribal members, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sat me, there's a young David, dope is a bad word. It's going to set us back, on this movement. And, for us, we were we really did have a mission to defend our patients everywhere, and we wanted them to see that in our content. So as we started putting out content about the plant, about the people that are utilizing the plant, you know, for us, we had like patient of the month. We would, you know,
Yeah.
work with different dispensaries to give an ounce to them, really compassionate. So the content itself lended itself, and you know, we really kind of crossed that line of, you know, it being a bad word, derogatory word, to me. What I know is, if I say your shirt is dope, that's
Yeah.
the highest compliment I could probably give you. So I think we changed the word, but we also needed to change kind of the perception of cannabis too.
Yeah, there's some power about taking the word back and putting your own spin on it, right? And you know what I love about you. So you and I met probably one of my first NCIA events through Halston from Hoban Law, right?
Hmm.
You were doing an after party. Halston's like, you got to meet Dave. You got to go to his event. And then I've seen you at almost every subsequent event after that. But to me, the old school marijuana culture, and I don't want to call it like the Cheech and Chong culture, but there is still a stoner culture that plagues this industry. Not that there isn't a place to kind of respect the past and look towards the present, but I like how you put out content out there that talks about the medical and therapeutic side of this plant. Because listen, is it used as, and I don't want to call it a drug, but do people use it just to disconnect the same way they use with alcohol? Absolutely. But there still is a vast majority of people out there that are using it for therapeutic needs, using it for mental health needs, using it for actual medicinal needs like epilepsy and other things that I think the unfortunate part is the stoner culture overshadows that. And when I see you out at events, the one thing that you always say is, hey, I'm out here to show you that the stereotype of the cannabis entrepreneur is not what you think it is. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a business owner, I'm a hard worker, and I use cannabis. And to me, you are the ideal person to be out there shedding that stereotype. And I love seeing that. What drives you to get that message out there?
Well, I appreciate that. You know, to me, you know, it's always a medicine. And to me, when it comes to medicine, it really is more about wellness. And that is physical wellness, but also mental wellness. And I have to even admit, like, you know, for me at the beginning, you know, I was a stoner, you know, back in 93. But once I started seeing the medicals, I started realizing that your mental wellness is just as important. If it makes you smile, you know, I tell my wife, if I, you know, need to hit a vape pen and throw the garbage because it makes me, you know, more active, it does. And, you know, I think it does a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And I also don't want to neglect the fact that, you know, the demographics of cannabis is so vast,
Yeah.
you know, from the old person to the young person. And I think there's a, you know, I think I've always respected whatever reason you want to do it. I just want you to have the choice, right?
Yeah.
And I think for many years we didn't have the choice. We were, you know, subject to persecution. We're subject to really life altering things, for you know, life altering things like jail or taking your kids away if you had this plant. And that was, to me, always wrong. And I think you know, the grassroots movement, always that message where, you know, this plant should be free. Uh, and, you know, so many people were in the closet, and I think Dope Magazine really started bringing people out. And, you know, to me, the magazine wasn't about talking about the plant. It was talking about the people and
Yeah.
allowing people to go, you know what? If this person can do it and can, you know, and be active and do what they need to do, then why couldn't I? And I think allowing those stories to come out has allowed people to go, you know what? I accept it. I accept, you know, the fact that, you know what I mean? No one's going to look at me in a certain way. And, you know, that perception's been, you know, again, changing and evolving over the years with legalization, with, you know, to me, media that is more commercial out there, you know, seeing it on there, I think validates what I think a lot of people have known and about this plant for a very long time.
Yeah, you know, I agree with you with the persecution and everything else. You know, it was shunned into use the Men commercial, the dark corners of wherever. But, you know, I also believe personally that lack of education on the plant itself and the different types of strains and the way they affect you out there also kind of hindered it from being used more mainstream, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
forever, until we got to this, to me, and I'm just going to talk about my personal experience, until we got to this point where Colorado went full adult use legalization, you were buying weed, or you were buying
Yep.
marijuana, or you're buying cannabis, whatever it was, you were buying whatever the guy that you knew had, or whatever your friend's guy had. And maybe he texted you some strain names and you were familiar with them, but were they really that, right? And, you know, at best, you had indica sativa. I got an upper, I got a
Yep.
downer, right? Today, when you walk into a dispensary, I mean, the amount of strains that they have, and they talk about the effects, and Leafly. Eventually, I got to get somebody on here from Leafly, because I love that their new flower that they put out there that talks about the terpene profiles.
Yep.
So when you can look at this and actually see, okay, it's not just cannabis. It's, what does Blue Dream do to me? What does Gorilla Glue do to me? What does, you know, Mac 1 do to me, right? To mention a few strains that we know. I think you're in a whole different ball game. You know, did you guys kind of approach that at Dope? Is that something that you're seeing that's more newer? And do you believe that that's kind of the next launching pad for our industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I was, you know, honestly, your story is very familiar to everyone. You know, when you got your bag from your dealer, you know, really the descriptions, is it purple? Is it nuggety? Is it big? Is it small? Is it two
Yeah.
fingers down the bag? And, you know, I think, you know, back then growers too probably grew indicas a lot more because they probably yielded a lot more
Yeah.
and sativas didn't. So to me, I think everyone got the perception that, oh, it made you tired. It made you lazy. It
Yeah.
made you kind of not active. But, and then of course, once in a blue moon, when that wacky weed came out that may give you the energy to, you know, clean your house and do all that stuff came out. It
The
came out very,
landscaping.
very little bit, right? So I think, like, you know, even in 2011, all of this information wasn't there,
Yeah.
right? One of the only platforms that really talked about cannabis in a large forum is Hightimes. And that's really where I got a lot of my information growing up. Had the magazine under my bed, like it was a
Yeah.
Playboy, you know, to make sure my mom didn't walk in. I was watching, you know, this magazine. And, you know, the truth is that's the only way we learned it. But, you know, it's certainly evolved. And I think, you know, you mentioned companies like Leafly and a lot of other media sources that continue to put a light on all of the, you know, the numbers. You know what I mean? First of all, is it pesticide free? Is it
Yeah.
free from all of these harmful chemicals? And then it starts talking about THC, and that's even evolved now because people are looking at THC as a barometer to buy their weed, right? The higher, the better,
Yeah.
right? And then as people start developing almost like understanding their cannabinoid system, they understand that they can even fine tune it down even more. I mean, down to even the category of the way they ingest it. You know, flower, vaping becomes available,
Yeah.
edibles become very predominant, and then the big wave of dabs, you know, that came in, and you know, now you can get like a concentrated drink, and you know, like in a way, and be able to feel a different way. So, I mean, the applications have been vast, and now the education. You start talking about terpenes, and you know that becomes absolutely vital. And people are, you know, I think moving a little, and maybe you know the store owners would say, you know, different, but you know I think people are becoming a little more educated and able to not look at the THC part. You'll still get people that walk in. Same thing with a bar. You know, come in. I'm 21. Give me the strongest thing.
Yeah.
You know, give me a Long Island iced tea that I see. Now people are getting more crafted in the way they're choosing and their products.
You know, it's similar to it's funny to me, and you can maybe relate to this because you run a, you know, you own the bar. It's almost the progression that tequila went through, right? You know, back when we were all younger, everyone just shot tequila, and it was probably Cuervo, and it was, you take a shot of tequila and it was right. But you look at today, and Ron White has his own tequila. The Rock has his own tequila. Clooney with what? Wow, yeah, why can't I think of the name of that? I drink it all the time. But cannabis has done the same thing. It went from the, you know, and they make this joke in Grandma's Boy when the main guy goes to see Dante and he's like, I got this, this, and this. He's like, dude, just give me a bag of weed, right? In today's times, you go in kind of with an education looking for something, just like the same way tequila came through, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. Brands become important because now there are platforms to market your brands, and that becomes a feeling. Also, the brand and the packaging and what you're smoking, what you have in your hand, becomes
And
important.
how,
And
and to your
I
point,
think
how it's delivered also.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, so many different ways. to do it now. There just isn't one traditional way. So, you know, someone who's done it a long time ago and used to rolling a joint and saying, it's too harsh for me. Now there are edibles. Now there are lighter ways to do things. These vape pens become a lot easier to ingest them also. So I think just like, boy, it's a whole new world now, and people have choices.
No, it's really exciting. So let's rewind back to the days at Dope, right? So 30 days, you guys go from idea to having a magazine, which is absolutely incredible. What was that rush like? And then, okay, you have a magazine now. You got the first issue out. What's next? How do you go from issue 1 to a business that was acquired for a large sum of money by an industry titan?
Well, back in the day, we didn't know where it was going, you know, so it was more of a hobby. I was just, like you said, I was a serial entrepreneur. I was like, anything I saw, I was like, okay, I want to do it. And you always felt like you could pretty much do anything, but it really evolved from a hobby where, you know, we were putting together a magazine. And as we started watching and hearing people come with their stories, it started grabbing traction. And, you know, what was a once a week meeting now was we got to come in every day. We need to get an office. And, you know, that part is super exciting.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, it's just like, starting businesses could be scary, right? You're doing that, but this started off as a passion project. And as it moved into a business with, you know, sales and those type of things. And, you know, all of us were doing everything ourselves. You know, the 5 partners were, taking on each task itself, the sales part of it, the marketing part of it, the content part of it. It was a real collaborative effort. So as it started becoming real and, you know, in Washington, you started hearing the whispers of legalization. Yeah. It really just like kind of a perfect timing on when we started it. And by the time the 12 months came by, now here's legalization. They're talking about putting it on there. And by the time it became 2013 and became legal, I mean, the information and the people who wanted to contribute to the magazine just really blew up. And that's when we really started deciding like, wow, we really need to take this serious. We need to put together the infrastructure. We need to start hiring some people to, start supporting what is growing so fast.
That's awesome. And, you know, like you said, it just happened to be really good timing. You know, there's a quote by Sinatra I really like that said, people often say that I'm lucky. Luck only goes so far as to put you in the right place at the right time. You need to know what to do with it. You guys happen to be in the right place at the right time, but you also seem to know what to do with it and to run with it, especially with legalization in your backyard.
Yeah. And, you know, to me, it was hard work, you know, for me, it really kind of took on, like, to me, like being a lifestyle magazine, you needed to live the brand.
Yeah.
You needed to jump in full part. It wasn't something that if it was going to become what it was going to become, it wasn't going to be for just, you know, jumping in, doing a little bit. It needed a full heart. And I just think, you know, thank my partners who all came with just some complementary skills. And all of us are completely different. Everyone came in, did whatever it took. And I think it's a combination of timing, but also, like you said, I always often utilize that. You know what I mean? If you're doing the right thing, you're always going to be at the right place at the right time, talking to the right people. And it just feels like it naturally moved itself, kind of like directed us into the right, path.
So, you know, you said it's kind of started out as a hobby and then it picked up steam and it really turned into a full-fledged business. You guys had to get office space, you had to get people, all that stuff. You know, I always think, or I believe, and I think it's kind of been proven that the people who have a passion for what they do are always going to be the most successful entrepreneurs. And clearly you have that passion. But, you know, there's a lot of people who have hobbies, and if they ever take that hobby and made it their full-time job, they may not enjoy that hobby anymore. Was there ever a point where you guys were growing and experiencing this hyper growth that it just came to a point where it wasn't fun anymore? Or was it just like, oh my God, I can't believe I created this and get to do it every day?
I mean, we're talking about cannabis. We're talking about weed. You know what I mean? There's no possible way I could get sick of it, at all. So I think, just such a blessing because, in the bar world, it was something where, like, in that age range that I've owned bars, that was just the most exciting thing in the world. Who wouldn't want to own a bar and, go to parties and do all these type of things. But as I started growing up and then maturing and having children, the cannabis space really kind of complementary what my life was at that moment. And to your point, you got to be very passionate about it. And, you know, my transition from the bar world to, you know, full-time in the bar world to the cannabis world, it was a real, you know, it wasn't really a decision. You know, to
Yeah.
me, it's just like at some point the bar world was not my passion anymore. And I think to me, I really just said, you know what, this is what I'm passionate about. This industry is what I'm passionate about. I woke up every single day without having to hit an alarm and go, you know what, I'm ready, want to go and build something. And, you know, to me, it was always about the people. This is the people I always want to surround myself with, you know, cannabis minded people. It just kind of fit more with kind of as I started maturing, you know, fit more in my lifestyle.
No, that's absolutely incredible. I mean, to wake up every day, go to work, doing something that you love, you know, I would say that's a very small amount of people that get to do that. So you guys are building dope, you know, it's going well. You've got years under your belt. And then, you know, how far into MJ Biz did you guys start doing the party that brought you a ton of attention that probably led you to your next venture?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we grew very grassroots. You know, it started up in Washington. The next state that we opened was Oregon.
Okay.
And we realized that we needed to go into Colorado as legalization started coming. But, you know, we knew it was going to be very difficult to build just individual magazines. We needed to build a national brand. And that's really when some of the partners came in and said, you know what, let's build a national magazine, right? And let's go ahead and seamlessly put, to me, localized content in the back.
Oh, wow.
That way, because to me, the cannabis industry at that time, every region spoke differently to their people. And I think there was always a sense of community in whatever region you are. So, I mean, every story is different. So I think, you know, making that move allowed us to have a little more notoriety. But, you know, even since the beginning, we knew events was going to be something that we wanted to do. You know, we had a dope cup in 2012, our first
Very
dope
cool.
cup, which was, you know, small, and it was scary as hell because, you know, here we are throwing an event, and you know, here walks in to me, called the commission, where there's the police head, the fire department head, and all these regulators who walked in, and we didn't know what they were going to do.
Yeah.
We took a real big risk by, you know, bringing in some sponsors and inviting everybody there. There's a real distinct possibility they could just pull that from under us. But when they walked in and they saw the way that we were conducting ourselves, we were very professional with them. We worked with them throughout the time with their checklist. Okay, we're not going to violate anything that you have, no alcohol, no this, no that. Really, you know, compliance has been everything when it comes to these events. And we knew that that was going to be an important reason why they would allow us to do it again.
Yeah.
You know, each state was different. So, you know, we took a lot of risk in doing events in different states, but we knew that someone needed to go in there, kind of break down those walls and, you know, kind of stress it, test it, you know, out, because no one's ever done this. No one's really at that point done a lot of magazines except for Hightimes, and cannabis events were some of the first one were the smallest little things with, you know, what we see now. You mentioned MJ Biz. It's a far cry from what MJ Biz
Oh, wow.
looks like. Yeah, there was like little tables, little signs that people made at Kinko's, and there was no like scaffolding and all these type of things. So
MJ Biz is almost too corporate for me now.
oh yeah, it's gotten so big, and it's, you know, everyone is, you know, the big companies have the ability to outdo and really kind of show what they're all about, and they absolutely do. So, you know, the events have really completely changed the way, you know, it took kind of our core competency in bars and nightclubs and throwing events right into this world where we just, again, doing stuff that we love, right? Bringing people together. And
So I read an interview about you, and it talked about how you got into cannabis use, and it talked about your time in college. Would you say that your time in college and the parties that you threw in college were kind of the precursor to the events you were doing at Dope? Is that where the experience came from?
absolutely. I mean, it was, you know, and you know, I started at the end of like high school, and, you know, I'm actually glad that happened, you know, and it was literally maybe the last day of, high school, and we were going to a dance, and we decided to pull off behind a 7-Eleven and smoke, some weed out of a can. And, I started going, wow, you know what I mean? This feels really good. And, going into college, it was just incredible. I started meeting all these people, and I tell this story all the time. All of a sudden, people from all over were just uniting under this plan. I was, it just became such a social thing. And me, that's what, I don't know if I have any skills at all, except for just really to get people together and, kind of connect people. And that was always been kind of what I am as a person, is that hospitality. I'm always like, are you doing good? Are you smiling? Are you, is your life good? It just feels like, you know what I mean? I'm more cautious about, kind of looking at the person who isn't, smiling and somehow trying to go, hey, bring you into the circle. And that's what cannabis, I think, has done for a lot of different people. And, back in college, we started, finding a great source where everyone could get this really high grade cannabis, and we were sharing that with people. And eventually that became a really big thing. We moved into this big house with 9 roommates, and literally every night was just, people coming in from all over, smoking, smoking weed. And I have maybe 20, 30 bongs, and, just kind of just, people just, it's just a free for all. People were just sharing and getting to know each other. And, at the very root of it, this was really, what I felt made me very happy and what I love to do. So you're absolutely right. It has kind of been one long, event and one long, celebration since that
who would have
day.
thought back in college that one day you'd be doing that professionally?
Yeah. And you know what I mean? And not get arrested for it. Back then, we were just like looking outside. I mean, we, all of us did, are the cops outside? Am I worried about, having like a small little 20 bag in my pocket? Those were the type of days. But, the big pivotal moment to me was the next year, Hemp Fest, which again came full circle, where we launched Dope Magazine. We went to that event, which was in its second year, down in Gasworks Park, where it really opened my eyes. And, talking to Vivian, who is a legend in the world, he started Hemp Fest. He said that the first year that he just put a pot plant on a table and stood there, and people are walking by, and it was a free speech movement. And by the next year, there was tens of thousands of people at this park. And it was the most eye-opening thing. And I just saw all sorts of people. And, because you're in your own world, in your house there, you think that, wow, this is the only group of, cannabis consumers. But it was a lot more than that. And that really also changed my perception. And I became an advocate. I really became a person that, really entrenched myself into the counterculture of it.
Yeah. To me, it kind of seems as if cannabis legalization it's not creating more cannabis users. It's uncovering them. Right. Yeah. Like you said, people were in the closet. I remember, I want to say 23, 24 years old. I was working for a company. I made a top performers trip, and I remember getting out to that trip, and I had actually just started using at the time. So I was very new, and I'm like, all right, how long can I do this for? I'm an adult. I have to grow up. I remember going on that trip, and every single one of the executives who I had all looked up to were sitting in a hotel room passing a joint. I'm like, wait, you guys do this? Yeah. Why? I'm like, okay. And to me, I'm like, okay, a CEO of a $120 million a year firm. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, okay, you're a very successful person and you do this, then maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was. So I truly feel as we get more and more legalized, it's just uncovering people. It's not creating them. And we'll create some along the way that we're skeptics, but it's to me, do you agree with that?
I completely agree. And that's kind of what, to my point earlier about Dope Magazine it's just like, people are not scared of the plant. They're scared of what they'd be perceived as if they tried it. I truly feel that. That is more of like the driving factor of them not trying it, is because they're worried that someone will see them do it. They'll be treated as, what all cannabis users were, which is lazy stoner mentality, Cheech and Chong, which, for a lot of people was far from the truth. To me, a lot of them utilized it to relax. A lot of them, people are used to grabbing a drink to relax. And in reality, that's not what everyone is looking to do. And, you know, and a lot of people who use that medically too, who found themselves feeling better for, you know, by using cannabis, you know, they won't share that. You know what I mean? They wasn't kind of in a position where they would share that. And now that people are sharing it, now that people respect, and that's kind of where Dope Magazine came, and we started putting celebrities and bigger figures on the cover. And I think people related to those people and said, wow, if I see Whoopi Goldberg on here, you know, she's a successful talk show host, actress, and does so many things. She's doing cannabis. Wow, you know what? I'm open to doing it. And I think that's really where a lot of us can influence our surrounding circles. And it's not about going, you have to smoke pot. You have to, you know what I mean? If you don't smoke pot, then you don't. No, you know what I mean? I'm just not going to hide my, you know what I mean? My affection for it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think Seth Rogen's doing a great job with Houseplant and the way they're educating people. You know, you and I, we're not sitting here and advocating, oh, you guys should smoke a ton of weed. You have to smoke a full joint or do this. Use it to whatever level that you want, whatever you're comfortable with. If it's taking one hit and just feeling a little leveled off, if it's smoking a whole joint and that's what I mean, it's whatever your use is that you're comfortable with is what you should do. There's no one way to do this. You know, you want, just like anything else, you want to be careful of overindulging, but we're in a time right now where the standardized dose, we're getting closer and closer to the standardized dose where you can really monitor your intake, figure out how something affects you. And just like if you're grabbing a drink after work with colleagues, you can have a little bit of cannabis and have that same, okay, I'm going to have a little buzz for the hour that I'm here. And when I get home to my family, I'll be normal. Right. You know, we have those abilities now, and we're not saying that you need to do the Cheech and Chong and get the joint that's, you know, this big and smoke it out in your car. Right.
Those are fun too. But, you know, to me,
there's a time and a place for everything.
Absolutely. And to me, it's about safe experimentation. You know what I mean? This is, you know, if you're in a safe zone and you can experiment, you can have the education, you can really ease yourself into it. But even the people that don't smoke cannabis, I know a lot of those people, but I love the difference between now. Before there was a lot of judging, and now it's like, it's not for me, but you know what? I see so much, and that's why the approval rating for cannabis is so high, because of the educational part of it. And we can really thank a lot of different platforms that have done that for us, because back in the day there was no possibility of that happening. You know, this has gotten this information out at light speed, and social media has become such an instrumental thing. You know, back in the day, you know, we were passing out flyers, you know, to get the word out. You know, the movement of social media and information getting out there fast has really changed the way we're getting information today. And ultimately, that's what's really changing people's minds about, you know, cannabis itself, whether you use it or whether you don't use it.
Well, obviously, Dope Magazine was an amazing platform for all of this because, you know, a few years ago, you caught the attention of one of the biggest magazines in the industry and were able to do an acquisition. What was that like, knowing that you guys busted your ass for the better half of a decade, or not better half, for most of a decade, to be able to have that kind of, hey, we did it. Look, these are the guys that we looked up to, and now either they're scared of us or they like what we're doing so much that they want us to be part of them. What was that feeling like when you found that out?
Well, it was amazing. I mean, obviously it was a ton of hard work, and I'm going to tell you, you know, for 8 years, it was scary too. You know, it was massively scary when you build something and it grows that fast. You're trying to build a ship while you're moving towards your destination. And, you know, in cannabis, there really is no map, you know, there's no east, west, you know, compass that I can point to get me to this destination. So be honest with you, it was been scary. And we've had a lot of, you know, scary moments building it, and, you know, different turns and changes, moving with, you know, compliance, our customers are dealing with neck breaking changes every day when it comes to packaging, whether it's rules and regulations. And, you know, so we've had to really navigate through that. So by the time, you know, we met up with Hightimes, you know, there's always been a conversation around working together. I've always had a deep respect for, you know, all of the people at Hightimes, and I met Matt Stang and just a funny story is just, we are launching down in California, and, we decided to get a billboard, and,
Yeah.
it's really honest. I didn't really know that this billboard literally was going to be outside of the Hightimes high rise, right in their window,
That's
in their
awesome.
meeting window. And when I started getting social media posts like, wow, dope, that is gangster. Like, like it was almost like
Shots
people were going,
fired.
that's kind of like the way people present it. I booked a flight that day to LA the next day to go to go to the Hightimes office. And the first thing I really said is just like, and then I saw Matt Stang, and he just kind of looked at me with the sideways face, like, what the fuck are you doing here? Right. And I just said, I just want to come here and show respect. You know what I mean? You're the reason why I did, started Dope Magazine. You're the reason why I did this. This really is just an ode to the plant. And, and immediately he's like, yo, what's up? And he's just like,
That's
come
cool.
on in, and did that. Let's go up to Green Street. Our other friends in LA who are doing some huge things. I love those guys. They've been such instrumental to us too. Green Street, big shout out to them. But went upstairs and, kind of hung out with them. And, interesting enough, those type of moments right there come back later on when you call them and they pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And they're just like, what's up, Dave? And we're like, how can we do some stuff? Because, to be real, open kimono, it's a tough run. We're building this thing so big, and sometimes it's beyond what you can do. And I think teaming up with Hightimes was that moment where we were just like, okay, we built this up. It's our responsibility to continue to tell the story. And, everything just seemed to work out like in a perfect, harmony there.
Yeah, man. No, it's an incredible story. And that's right around the time when I met you. I think you actually still had a Hightimes business card when we met. So fast forward, the media empire of dope is safely in the hands of Hightimes. And now what's next for David Tran? Well, I had a great time throwing events. So was that the thought? How did we come to Farechild now, the next chapter
Yeah,
of your
and
life?
like you said, I had a Hightimes business card. I was, one of the directors at Dope, and under Hightimes, and that was an interesting period of time. You know what I mean? I think if you sell your company, you think that you're going to kind of contribute quite a bit, and in building it, but really at the end, you're kind of going a different direction. And as that went,
and now you have a boss.
Yeah, and it was 20 years since I've had one. So it was a different mode, and I couldn't do things that I wanted to do. And to your point earlier, it's about that passion, right? It's like, what is driving me every day to wake up? And I knew that events and connecting people were absolutely everything. At that time, I'm still going around representing, shaking a lot of hands. That was my passion. And at some point I was just like, you know what, I have to take another leap that I've taken so many different times before, and start a new company. And that's when Farechild developed. And I knew immediately that the most favorite thing I love to do is connect people through events. And I also saw the trends of people utilizing events as their marketing platform. Yeah. Whether you're going to a trade show, whether you're creating your own launch events or special education events, it just blasted onto the scene. And there's all of a sudden it went from 1-2 shows back in 2011, exponentially growing to now there are, I don't know what the number is, but
yeah,
there are thousands of events, small to big events. And we wanted to continue to build on that. Like you mentioned earlier, we had successes building our golden ticket parties, which was, after every convention, people always ask me, Dave, where are you going? Where are you going? And we were able to just gather, early days, we were able to gather so many people because, we're reaching each other online and through the magazine, but never get to see each other in person. Yeah. So that was that real big opportunity. So when we did that in Vegas, wow, so many people, wanted that. And even the companies too, they just wanted a turnkey solution, that they didn't have to pull a bunch of people off of their team to build an event where they're going to invite people that they already know already. Here we are building a larger scale event bringing in different companies, bringing in the right people, which I think to me is ultimately the most important part of the event, is bringing the right people in. You know, if you throw a great party and you don't have the right people in there, it really is kind of a waste of time. So, you know, that really launched us off, and, you know, that really transitioned us into Farechild, which is, you know, to me, an event company at its very core. Um,
Yeah, I thought it was really cool with the party that you guys did this year at MJ Biz. To your point, we interact so much, and so much of it is virtual, you know, through our businesses and everything else. With the time of year that MJ Biz was with your party, it was almost like a celebration. Like, hey, we had a hell of a year. We're still at this conference. We're still working our ass off, but let's take a few hours and just decompress, enjoy each other's company, and get to know each other. And I think that was incredible.
Oh, it's so much, you know, so much of business is about the relationship. You know, and we've understood that for a long time, and so many people, and I think what drives me a lot too is so many times people walk up and at one of our events is the first time they've met, and now they're merging with each other.
Yeah.
Now they're like working with each other. Now they're like doing that. There's nothing more exciting than that. And I think being able to provide that atmosphere, but also, again, taking away the factors of, let's make sure that it's done in the right way too. And when they come there, there's a memory that is instilled in them for a long time. And so doing it right now, I just have to just give a shout out to, like, my team has been amazing. A lot of the times I get a walk in there, not even know what's happening, and they always knock it out of the park, and they always have. And you know, this year they thought about a hot air balloon. I mean, that's not, you know what I mean? I'm creative, but I'm not that creative. And it was just
It seems
amazing.
like you put together two really good management teams, first with Dope and now with Fairchild, that it just makes your life easier, that you can just focus on the main part of the mission and let everybody else fill in the ancillary stuff.
Oh man, we couldn't do it all. I mean, we always say, let's play to our strengths, you know, and let's put people in the, you know, the right position, and you know, we you know, and let's give them the tools. And my job is just give them the tools to do what they do great, and not step on their toes. And you know, the toughest part about business is the people. You know, I mean, you know, you don't. It's that variable that is, you know, always changing, and you don't know, you know, you don't know if you have the right people on there. So it's always been a challenge. And you know, the good part about, you know, going through that process is the experience that you get from that, and you know, choosing people and why you have people in certain positions. And you know, to me, that, you know, I wouldn't trade that experience really for anything, even though it's the hardest part of building the business.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, because I know we're grabbing an hour from you later. I would love to get into Fairchild and how you guys are coping with the current situation, but we have an entire panel on that. So if you guys want, you want to see more of David, join us again today right here on Facebook Live. Let's see if I can point at Cannabis Lab. There's the logo. I think I'm getting used to this whole Facebook Live, but 4 p.m. Eastern today on Facebook Live, we're going to have David. We're going to have a lot more people talking about how this current epidemic we're going through is affecting our industry and our business, and how we're all going to get through it. David, you want to plug where we can find you and where we can follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. My Instagram is at Tranimal Chronicles. Also on Facebook, it's Father Tran. Fairchild.com is our website, and also the Instagram handle is the Fairchild. Please follow us. We have some very exciting news about a virtual event that we're putting on for 420.
Awesome.
Can't wait to share that with everybody. You know, for us, it's, you know, while things are really tough, we still want to connect people, and we, you know, if we have to do it virtually, we're going to do it, you know, and, you know, we have the time to do it now, and we're learning a brand new skill set. But, you know, with tragedy, you know, to me, we're going to try to bring some smiles to people's face, where, you know, to me, which was going to be a historical 420, we want to continue that tradition. And, you know, this is going to be a 420. Obviously, none of us will ever forget.
Yeah.
But, you know, we can also make it a one, you know, that unites people, and we could do some real meaningful things for charity also.
No, I think that's going to be awesome. You know, I was very skeptical on virtual events when this whole happened, but even this conversation that you and I are having today, It's awesome. I mean, you and I feel like we're talking face to face. We're having a great conversation, and just funny enough, we're recording this for people to see, and everyone's watching us. All 6 of you are watching us live on Facebook right now. Oh, 8 of us now.
Hi
Ooh,
guys.
we had 8 people there, but
Hey,
more people will watch this one. We didn't announce it, so more people will watch when we recorded. But David, thank you so much.
thank you,
Again, guys, 4 p.m. today. The logo's over there, I learned. 4 p.m. today, State of the Union, COVID-19, a lot of great operators from across the country. David, who's an OG in the industry. If you want to learn more about C-Lab, we're definitely having you down in October again for the event. You were amazing last year. Literally, I think you talked to everybody at the event. You were a part of every single side event there. Just an absolute staple of the Cannabis Lab conference. Can't thank you enough for that. Check us out, www.joinclab.com. And check out more with David today at 4 p.m. We're signing off. Everybody have a good one.
Thanks, guys.